Well, first of all, this is the Contractors Conversation Virtual Summit, how to be a power partner government contractor. We're discussing leadership. And I want to welcome you back again. This is part 2 of our leadership conversation. I want to say thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having
you
me.
was here before and
Yes.
you came back. And we wanted to talk this time around the fluidity of leadership and how your leadership style has to change depending upon what you're leading.
Right.
And I think people have this rigidness of leadership looks like this and it's this in every situation. And that is not true. So, let's delve into that. We had this great conversation going on off camera. Let's bring it on camera.
All right. And so what I would have people to realize in leadership, you have leading teams, leading people, you have, leading initiatives, leading projects, whatever that looks like for you, all of them call for something different. And so I often tell people to prepare for the rooms they're going in. And so when you think about what you're going to do or what you're going to lead or where you're going to go at with the end result of the project, that helps determine what kind of strategy you're going to need for that particular environment. And so if I were leading an initiative here in my organization, I'm doing a cultural change, a realignment, right? And so this requires a lot of pre-work, a lot of outlining, a lot of standardization. And so that helps me. What does that even look like? That means I have to build a sustainable plan. And so I believe that every one of those rooms that you're going in needs to have a plan, but the plan needs to have an eraser on the end. And I say that because sometimes the way we always did business is not really going to do business. Some rooms require more flexibility and being fluid. And if you're going to be a leader, flexibility is going to be a part of that makeup that you need to have. And so there's some things that confine us. We know we have laws, we have rules, but there are also ways we can be creative and being open to creativity in those different spaces. And so when I'm doing this big project of realignment or this initiative, how creative can I really be? Who are my partners? Who's on my team? Not being afraid to build a team because you can't do everything. And so some of those people in those rooms that in those teams and even those initiatives that you're trying to get accomplished may not necessarily require you. Would you be able to lead people forward to be a part of that change you want to see? Would you be able to empower them to be able to have different conversations, to be able to look at other opportunities, diversity in your teams, being able to bring different things to those spaces, not be afraid to look outside of the norm to find solutions for your problem that you're here to solve? Because ultimately, as a contractor, you're looking to solve a problem. Whether it's delivering a service or a product, you're solving a problem. How can you do that? And so not being open, I would tell people often, that's one of the things, knowing who the players are. I shared that before, part 1, about knowing who's on your team, who's on your community. Because if you have a big project, people on your team may not have what you need, but who can you bring in to help you? And so I think people being open to leading differently, changing it up. Oftentimes as leaders, we have our own way of doing business because I'm about certain things, I'm just a certain way. But will I be open to innovation and technology? Will I be open to data systems and removing paper? How will I be open to removing waste? How we always did a thing is not how we always have to do a thing. And so what I've learned is, as a leader, in order for you to evolve and change in your own leadership, and even in the rooms that you go in, you have to be willing to sacrifice not being the same and being able to move forward with that mindset. You cannot change and be the same. It's one of the things I tell people. And that's with anything that you're doing. And so as leaders, our flexibility is going to roll from the top down onto the teams, onto the initiative, onto the contract that we're trying to secure, the relationship we're trying to build, the partnership. That has to be a way of life for us, and be open to that and recognizing that as we grow and expand in those areas in our leadership, thinking outside of the box, being able to make a decision. That's one of the things I find people get stuck in the committees that I'm on. I'm on lots of committees, and we're making powerful decisions, but sometimes they can't decide. But you have to be able to make a decision. And sometimes it might not be the right one, but will you be able to go back and adjust? Look at what went wrong, what didn't go well, what could you do better? Those are all questions. That is leadership. Don't be afraid to get it wrong. And if that happens in those moments, don't be afraid to go back and that relationship or that partnership didn't go well. Will you do recovery? What would you do in those moments? Because sometimes you're just dealing with people. You're not dealing with the whole team. You're not dealing with a big organization. You're dealing with one person. And he may have an impression of you that's really not who you are. Would you be willing to reestablish that relationship and so you can secure that partnership moving forward? Or if you're if the only time y'all can work together is getting this project done, as a leader, you have to be willing to do it first. And they may not ever do it, but will you? And so those are things that you have to think about when you're trying to move forward in the organization. And I'm dealing with, managing the team or managing the people. They're all different ways, but being flexible, being able, pliable, being teachable. Because if you're not teachable, if you don't want to learn a new way of doing things, you're really not ready for the elevation that you really say you want. You want the contract, you want the leadership, you want the promotion, you want the opportunity, but will you be open to learn a new way? Can you stand the feedback that you're going to get? Because you want to ask those people that you're working with for feedback, whether it be good feedback or bad, but you want to take the feedback into consideration because that helps you to deliver better every single time. And so I would offer people to really think about that. Leadership requires that people say you got to put your armor on. Sometimes you got to take your armor off.
Oh, I love that. Say that one more time.
Yeah, people go in there all armed up. They're all ready for war, but sometimes you got to take your armor off. This arm, I've seen where they do treaties and they put everything on the table. They put the guns down, the badges down, whatever they're going to do. Everybody put the swords down. We just want to see how we can work together. How can we, as a group of leaders, make this thing work? How can we do it together and we all eat? And so I think people are so used to people taking advantage of them, or they go in with a mindset that they have to have everything they're trying to get us, that mindset. When the truth is, we're just trying to work together. And so that positive mindset, that resilience in leadership needs to rise up in moments like that. And so every last one of those rooms might call for that. But one of the things I've learned that has been successful for me in leadership and partnerships and getting a lot of the stuff done, because I just shared with you, my team is always at the table and they're always a part of the conversation. And oftentimes things are pitted at us. But I have to learn how to disarm and not be armed. I learned how to come in as I'm an asset and not a liability to you. And so people see me as an asset when I walk in the room. And that's, as a leader, that's how you want people to see you when you walk in those rooms, whether you're leading that initiative or leading that team or doing a project or a contract on your own, however that looks like. I am an asset mindset is what you have to take ownership of. So disarm and be an asset and not be on the defense.
I love that you brought that up because actually this is how we initially met. We work with the same coach.
Yes.
And she made a statement one time that I found like it was like a conundrum for a moment.
Right.
You choose to be offended.
Right.
But then when I sat and I dissected it and I cut it up into digestible bites and I ate it, I thought about how people listen and how we filter things. And if you hear or if you're listening with an eye towards being offended, or with an eye towards believing you're going to be taken advantage of, or with an eye towards believing somebody is out to cut you short, then that's what you hear.
Right. That's exactly what you get. And I tell people often, it's like slitting your own wrist. So when I go in there, people do offensive things, but you get to choose to be offended. And so I think if you're clear about what you bring to the table and how you want to be received, how you want this this meeting to go, what you desire from it, being clear about that and putting that out to the atmosphere, you're often going to attract that same very thing. And so I find that you give off that same energy. And I know people are into different things, but what I know to be true is you reap what you sow. That's what I know.
Mm.
And so if I go in there with an attitude of an asset, I'm gonna sow assets and I'm gonna reap assets too. And so there are things that happen in business. We know that that's life. But how will you move forward? Be aware, is what I tell people, to identify what went wrong. Be aware of that and how can you move forward? Because again, people can do offensive things, but you get to choose whether it's going to take you out or not. They can do whatever they like, but are you going to keep moving? Are you going to keep leading? Are you going to keep looking for a solution? Are you going to stop doing business because somebody did one contract didn't go well? No, you're going to regroup, readdress, readjust if you need to, and keep moving. That's the assignment. And so, whatever room you're in, whoever you're talking to, you're not going to take me out of my game because we had a tough conversation. I know in contracting world, there are times where the conversations are tough, the money ain't coming in like it's supposed to, the numbers ain't right, something missing, you didn't deliver when you said we've been waiting on this the whole time, you're holding up the rest of our projects. So many things are pending, and so tension can rise. But how will you be resilient in those moments? It's really important for you. And so having those other components of leadership, strengthening your emotional intelligence, strengthening your personal power, having those tools in your toolbox are going to help you be a successful leader anywhere you go, on and off the stage. You'll be able to lead your life better. You'll be able to lead your family better. You'll be able to lead your contracts better. You'll be able to lead your teams better. And people count on you as being one who delivers. And they're going to be looking for you, trust, they're looking for you. They want you there. They want your presence because they know how you show up. They know how your presence. They know that you're in authenticity. You're authentic. They know that you're going to deliver, and they know that you're going to be who you said you're going to be. They can count on you. You're consistent. These are all components of leadership. And so if you don't develop that, because what I found out is many people have technical ability, but they don't have emotional intelligence.
Mm.
And that's the difference between people who work and people who lead change. And so you have a lot of people who do work. Long as I understand how all these work together, you will always oversee those who do. And that maybe sound funny to some people, but if I understand how everything works, if I'm able to manage my leadership and balance it out, I'll always oversee those who do. And so what position do you want? Do you want to be a leader of change, or one who does the work, just disseminated work? And not saying that your job is invaluable, but what position do you want? And that's what you decide what you need. And so I would offer all leaders to decide, what position do I want in my business? What position do I want as a contractor? What position do I want in this, moving forward in my life period, in every area of your life? What do I want to do? Do you want to have impact, or you want to just make an impression? Decide. And so that's important for me. And even as a contractor, there are people that we work with right now. Millions of dollars is on the table. There's some people who have made an impression on us that we don't even want. It could be good, but we don't ever want to deal with them again. We're waiting for the contract to be up. But there's some people who made such an impact that we only want them. And we ask for them. And so how do you want to show up in the world? It's important on how resilient you become. Build that emotional power, emotional intelligence, work on that, strengthen that piece. And so every person on here who's going to hear my voice is going to need somebody in their life to help them do that. Develop your skills in leadership. I promise you, it is the best investment that you'll ever make, but it'll also have the greatest impact on whatever else you do.
You said something in the first part of our conversation, and then you brought it back up here again, and I want you to delve into it a little more. Now, there's this cultural thing of you're not supposed to care what people think about you. However, there is a thing about people getting the wrong impression of you.
Right.
And they are two different things.
Right.
Caring to the point of you having a nervous breakdown when somebody think about you is so different from walking into a meeting as a leader and somebody just misconstrues who you are or how you represent your organization. They're just two different things. And you said sometimes you have to break the ice and reintroduce yourself because that other person never will.
Right.
So when you brought up how you have some contractors that you're like, y'all sitting there like this, okay, this contract over here,
right,
we got to get rid of them.
Right.
In a situation like that, and I'm the leader of this company, and I'm getting the vibe, because if you're a true leader, you should be getting the vibe that they don't want to deal with you.
Right.
How do you suggest that you go about reintroducing yourself?
That is really a good question because I've had to do that here. Oftentimes people feel like because you're having to defend your brand doesn't mean that you're not a personable individual. I'm not afraid to defend my brand, but I'm also one who cares about the people who I serve. And so I think when people know you, that goes back to the connection piece, being authentic in who you are, and making connections. People listen. You think they're not watching. I had someone call me yesterday and say, hey, I was in a course with you and I heard you say X, Y, and Z. She said, I wrote that down, but I wanted to ask you more about it. And that's kind of like what it leads to this question you just asked me, because her impression of me, we were on opposing sides at one point. And so opposing sides did not make me a person who was bad. It just makes me who had a different opinion. And so I think people knowing what you stand for, I think being able to share that with her in that moment of vulnerability and tell her a little bit of my story and why I was here and why I believe what I believe, made her see me differently. So it's disarming, really, but being vulnerable about that, being able to know, hey, something is off. Because if you're checking the temperature of the people you're working with, you know when it's off. You know when there needs to be a repair or there's a breach. You can feel that. When you're getting that feedback, they tell you. Your customers, your clients tell you, they give you some indication that something needs to happen. And being able to go back and share with her who I am, what I stand for, where I come from, gave her a different, how I say it, impression of me. Now she wants to know, can we exchange numbers? That's where our partnership will lie now, in the collaboration. She's now part of my community because we had to repair the breach. And I think we were misunderstood. And sometimes people misunderstand what you're carrying. They misunderstand what you're presenting. They may misunderstand how you deliver, what kind of service provider you are. And so you being able to go back and just say, hey, I think that we may have gotten off on the wrong start, or I want to clear some things up with you. I want to just get some insight from you, pulling on them for their wisdom. Hey, say, listen, hey, I work with you in this case, and I thought about something from another way. Could you share your insight? Being able to allow others to share what they bring to the table, how they are valuable, what is their contribution, because sometimes people don't feel like you value them. And so I think that was one of the biggest gaps for me, was being able to not only just share what I bring to the table, but also how do you support us? Tell me how I can better help you get your mission accomplished. See, I told you before, it's about what would you lend? I wanted to hear how I could help her. How could I help you get your nursing goals met? How can I help you to do that? How can my department support your mission? And when she heard that, it was different for her. She heard someone who came as an asset, who came as a collaborator, who came to help her to get her mission accomplished, to see her be successful. And when you start approaching your providers like that, it lands differently for them. And so that was me. I was sowing a seed, but I also have an asset now.
Wow. And now I want people to understand there's a difference between being a leader who's operating out of emotional intelligence and a person operating out of ego, calling it leadership.
Right. Because people want to follow you. I don't have to tell my people what to do. They ask me, how can they help me? because they have buy-in to what I'm doing. Because I've communicated the plan already, right? We made the connection. I've overly shared the plan, the mission. I've asked my community for how they can support this mission. Everybody has a piece of it. So making sure people understand their importance. If you can't make them feel important, how important are you? How important are you? If you can't build and if you can't extend, if you can't move past the noise, because leadership gets messy, it ain't always a happy space to be in. And sometimes you're going to get tired in your business. You don't want to deal with the client or the customer who has all these complaints, but you have to move past that because at the end of the day, they're signing a check, right? And you get to choose in that moment, am I going to lead through this in resilience or I'm going to retreat? I made a decision not to retreat. And then sometimes you have to regroup, but I'm not going to retreat because it got hard. I'm going to pull on my community. Hey, someone in my community may have a better understanding of what I'm facing. How can they support me? They want to be able to help you. They have buy-in to that. And that's how your plans and your contracts and the work that you do, the services you can provide become sustainable because people who have a vested interest in seeing it done, getting it done, make sure it gets done because they help to deliver it. I don't have to volunteer, tell anybody, pull on them. They have the answer. They're the ones who touch it every day. I may have the framework, but they touch the process. And so who are your process owners? Well, I told you to find out who's on your team. Who's touching the process? Know your people. Know who you're working with. Know those who labor among you. Because when you pull on them, they know what you need. They know where the issues are. They know where the bottlenecks are. They know where the hurdles are. They know what's going to make it better. And when you need a solution, they usually have it. Pull on what your resources. It's invaluable.
And I'm gonna also say this: sometimes, as the leader, as the business owner, we have this misconception that we must be in all meetings.
Nope. You don't
Sometimes,
delegate. How I say it, you delegate or you disintegrate. What you gonna do? Because you're gonna lose yourself if you don't. I have on my calendar right now, I have 12 meetings to be in at the same time. Somebody on my team, I'm empowering them to be leaders too. Leaders duplicate. We don't just do it ourselves, we empower others to do the same thing. Don't allow your leadership to be so, to me, that's really somebody who has a control issue, who really is in fear. So if you feel like you can't delegate or you can't empower others to do what you do, then you want to look at why do you feel that way? It's usually a fear there of some kind. So let's deal with the fear. What are you afraid of? That they're going to know more than you know? They should. They should. I want smart people around me. I want people who ain't afraid to tell me, hey, Miss Clark, how you doing? I love you today, but I think that we got a problem. So tell me about it. Because you don't get to come in my way without a solution. So I empower my people to be solutions dealers. They come to me with solutions. And if you come with a problem, I'm gonna send you back. Because that's what you're here for. You're here to be a part of be a solution. And so you empower them to be solutions. It gives them, how I said, they know that they contribute to our team. They want to be here. And so I don't have people who call out on me. I don't have people who flake out on me who's like, all right, they didn't show up. My people show up and they be ready because I empower them to be a part of that change. They want to be helpful. They want to be needed and counted on. I count on my team. I cannot be in this seat without them. Because again, who am I leading? Nobody ain't following you. And so they want to be a part of a place where they're empowered to be greater, to serve more, to do greater, to achieve more. They always call our team for the projects that nobody else wants. We take on the challenge because we recognize that in our collaboration, we're going to win. And so we expand greater every single time. And my team rises up to the occasion. I'm very grateful. But that comes with nurturing and fostering, connecting and building. It's work. But it's easier as it goes because they duplicate after their own kind. And so you have to be fruitful, take dominion, you be fruitful, but then you multiply. And so that's what leadership is about for me. In any arena, it's about making sure that you empower others to lead to.
Delegate or disintegrate, you
That's it.
choose. Oh,
Right.
that
Because
was a word. That was a thesis. That
because
was,
you will kill yourself doing this.
oh, wow.
You're talking to someone who was delivered from that, because I was up early in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, answering emails, making sure everything was done, staying up late, doing the same thing, because I was afraid. I was proving that I was good enough to be in the spot I was in. And the truth was, I didn't no longer had to prove, I just had to be. I had to learn how to trust. And because I had a bad experience, I had issues with trust. But just because one person did something wrong doesn't mean everybody's going to do the same thing. What do I need to do? I need to find better people who I trust versus the ones I did. So I had to get clear about what I needed. I didn't need anybody to check my emails. I needed someone to be on boots on the ground. So I had to get clear about that. So those were things I had to process myself. So I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I had to do and what I know to do, what I'm doing right now. Because it will have you in a space where you're going to have to go to the doctor. They're going to be saying, what's going on with you? You're stressed out. You're burnt out. You're stressed out. And the first thing they want to do is give you a pill. And so I wasn't going to be suffering and body in pain because I was taking on so much when I had a team of over 30 people to help me. And so I had to get clear with my team, and I told them the same story. I am not going to be taking pills because I can't delegate. You guys are powerful. You are smart. You have the tools you need. If they didn't have the tools, I made sure they got them. That's my job as a leader, to move the mountain. They bring the solutions. I move the mountain if there's one. That's how that works. And so I'm very thankful for being chosen to lead, but it also caused me to rise in my leadership. I came in with technical ability, but I learned to be a leader who was going to transform an organization. And so that's how it evolved for me here in my current role. That's how I became an entrepreneur as well, and even got into the coaching world because I realized that it was greater than this. It was great. It was more than just in my organization. It expanded outside of it. It was my lifestyle. It was who I was. It was my brand. It was my makeup. It was my authentic self. This is who I, as I say, this is who I be. And so leadership is who you are on and off the field. And people have to keep that in mind. Well, I can lead in Walmart, wherever I am, and they can sense it. They can sense your leadership even when you're not even, hey, as you say, I'm not even on the clock. They sense it because it shows up where you go. They can smell the fragrance of your leadership. And so I want to be in a place in my leadership where they can smell it, even when I walk through a room without even have to say a word. They know that I'm carrying something. And so when I'm carrying something, when I'm called on, I'm able to deliver. And so that's what I would offer my folks, to continue to always continually foster your leadership skills and development. You can't pay enough for it. Okay. Whatever it costs, figure it out. Make sure you develop those skills. Whatever you need to do, make sure you invest in you in those areas. It's going to make the rest of your job easier, because you've been doing that job for 10, 20 years. You know how to do that job. But leadership has to be continually nurtured, continually fostered, continually. We have continual education in many of our courses that we do and things that we do. My leadership is continual, and I will continue. I will always have a coach. I will always have a leadership book. I will always be finding something to nurture my mindset on, because I recognize how powerful it is to not just me, but for every person who I impact.
Wow. That you don't prove, you just be.
Just be. Just be. Learn to be. It'll change your life. When you do it, it'll change your life. It will take the stress of leadership off of you, because most people are in a space of proving and not just being. And so it'll almost like a woosah moment. When I got the revelation, it changed. I was already at the table. I don't have to prove I belong here. I already have a seat. And so when I show up, just be.
And you know what? I'm gonna end the conversation right there, because there's no way to follow that up.
All right.
Just be.
Just be.
And then I'm gonna bring you back for the final part, and we're just gonna wrap it up on part 3. And once again, I want to thank you for spending this time with us as a part of the summit. It is so important to get the mindset right.
Yes.
You can't go after these contracts. You can't sit at the table with the largest customer there is if your mind ain't right, if your leadership isn't right. You just can't do it. You will drop the ball every time. You will wreck your team every time. So you don't prove, you just be.
Just be. And allow the team that you put together, trust your leadership. Do you trust yourself? Allow your team that you put together to do their job, empower them to do their job. If they don't have the resources, then that's when you come in and push it forward. But I spend most of my time encouraging and empowering my team and making sure they have what they need. I have the tough conversations with the bosses and I fight for them like my life depends on it because I understand what they need. And so when I go in that room and convey that message to my leadership, there's nothing that I haven't been able to get. Because they recognize it's the passion behind it and the impact it's going to have. And I think that's what I'm thankful for in leadership, is being able to build that collective of people around me to help me lead greater as well.
And with that, we're going to end this part of the conversation.
Okay.
And we're going to pick up with part 3, which is going to be our final conversation on leadership for this summit, because we're going to bring you back. Because we're never going to stop talking about leadership. So we're
That's
going to bring
right.
it back.
All right.
We're just going to end it for this part of the summit.
All right.
So thank you once again for sharing your knowledge with us. And we'll see you next time.
All right.